And after the No Name mixtape, we have the new album from Elza Soares, Mulher, do fim do mundo, otherwise known as The Woman at the End of the World. This is an album that came out back in June, but it's just as relevant now, seeing as we are in Olympic season. And of course, the Olympics being held in Brazil, specifically Rio. This album is also a Brazilian release from Brazilian performer Elza Soares. This album is sort of in the genre of Brazilian samba. However, it approaches this in a way that's very unique, kind of very eclectic. It takes bits from progressive rock and experimental rock and jazz rock, even post-rock. It's completely experimental, kind of nutty, and quite a challenging listen if you're not quite used to hearing a bit of everything put into one song. And it's not at all done in a way that's overwhelming or in a way where these styles clash. Instead, this album relies mostly on build-ups, the building of tension, and interestingly doing this with what is normally a very festive and cheerful style of music, samba. She does this in a very emotionally stirring way. Some bits are very stomach-churning, extremely heart-wrenching, like you get these strings that just pull at your heartstrings. You get some insane and unusual drum lines, some guitar riffs that are just nutty and eccentric, and of course Elza's very operatic and dramatic vocal style, and she delivers her lyrics in a way that is very theatrical, sometimes very exaggerated. Sometimes you'll get this gargling sound to her voice, like that sounds disgusting when I do it, but when she does it, it sounds kind of unsettling, like, whoa, what the flip was that? And I do have to mention, all of the lyrics are not in English, they're all in Portuguese. But the thing is, whilst you do need the lyrics to get a sense of what the album's all about, which is pretty much half of what makes this album so good, I feel like you can still listen to the music without the lyrics and still feel the emotional power of the songs at hand here. They're so well composed, so powerfully built up to very huge storming climaxes. Fucking said the word climaxes. The lyrics, on the other hand, I haven't talked about this yet, but it's a huge part of what makes this album so much of a standout in my opinion, and that is just the themes, which are so heavy and so topical. You could say that this whole album is topical and tropical, with themes of domestic abuse, to drug abuse, to poverty, to environmental issues. And on YouTube, sometimes there are lyric videos for these songs, and you can read along and see how chilling some of these lyrical themes are. Again, they're handled in a way that sounds very theatrical, but when you really dig into these lyrics, they're just so stark and explicitly brutal. The emotional power of this album is just so much more apparent. This album is fantastic, it's stomach churning, it's not the most accessible of listens. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you listened to this album and weren't exactly on board with some of the things being presented, but for me personally, it pleased me. But do approach it with an open mind, and do make an effort to get some of these lyrics into English translations. I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10. It's that good. 2 9s in a row.